Welcome back to the KMBest podcast. Off schedule today because Butt was held hostage in Wyoming for an extended period of time, which also means that our planned mailbag episode is going to have to be delayed because that's just how timing works in Marvel Snap. We could do a mailbag episode, which I'd love to, but we also could cover the OTA that comes out the day this podcast released. And unfortunately, if there's one thing I've learned working with Butt, it's that we always make the sober-minded, serious choice, at least when it comes to podcasting, if not deck building.
Right, yeah, I mean, definitely not deck building, but for podcasting, let's do it. I mean, OTA is a cool one. There's a couple things to talk about, so yeah, we should definitely cover it. I also do want to talk about your tournament because I missed it, and I want to hear what happened and what was good and what wasn't.
Yeah, and we'll get to your hostage situation in Wyoming, but if we've learned anything, it's that the most important thing in the world on this podcast is Marvel Snap, and the least important thing in the world is extended bits about being held hostage. I don't know where my audience got the idea that extended bits about my co-hosts being held hostage was what this podcast was about. Just because it was about that for 70 episodes doesn't mean that that's what this podcast is about, okay? This is a serious-minded Marvel Snap podcast, and we're here to prove it to you. I will say, if you have mailbag questions, we're going to be pulling them from this episode as well as last episode. So if you left them on the last episode, I'll see them. But if you didn't hear about the mailbag because I'm a moron and put it at the end of the episode instead of at the beginning, next week will probably be a mailbag episode unless my co-host gets held hostage again. With all that said, where do you want to start on this OTA?
I do want to say I think this is the third episode in a row that was supposed to be the mailbag episode.
So, it's a pretty consistent theme. I really do mean to do it, but stuff keeps happening. It's not my fault that the time moves in a linear manner. Okay.
Yeah, the mailbag episode is being held hostage. So
the mailbag episode is actually on Kanye's Wyoming compound right now. It's stuck there and it can't escape.
So OTA, I guess I don't have it in front of me. Maybe I should pull it up because I only remember
seem like the kind of thing that would be helpful to talking about it. Yes,
I do. Yeah, I do remember two changes. Why don't we start with the big one? A whole two. Wow. I think we could probably all agree the big one is Mother Ascani, and unless you consider not a Gambit change the big one, but Mother Ascani.
Do you want to take a victory lap on Mother Ascani?
I've been saying it. Yep. I've been saying it. I'm very rarely correct when I say this is what the change should be. But I will take it. I think it's a great change.
You should say what it is.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to pull it up. I can't remember if she got her power.
It's the change you were talking about. No, but, you don't remember?
No, did she get her power adjusted too? I think she did, right?
Yeah, I think she went to 4/4. I think it's I want to say it's 4/4, and now both cards do not get the bonus. So she no longer can stack with Grandmaster and things of that nature. Only the copied card gets the bonus, which I will say this. It's a much bigger nerf to her in Captain Carter than it is in the versions of the Gambit deck.
Right.
Which I think, if you asked me which one of these do you want to nerf her in, I would have gone the other way, right? Like, I see more complaints about Gambit than basically anything else. And while I don't think the card is, wildly overpowered to the degree that people are complaining about it, I have maintained basically since he came out that he's a little bit too good to be as annoying as he is, or a little bit too annoying to be as good as he is. And I do think that it's fairly likely that much of the discussion of this OTA is driven by, I can't believe they didn't nerf Gambit. I can believe they didn't nerf Gambit, but at the same time, I don't understand why they didn't nerf Gambit. Like, I get it, but I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I was surprised. I don't think this is so I kind of feel like this was almost the opposite of their normal approach, which is I almost feel like this was geared with the competitive players in mind and not the casual players.
It is weird, right?
Yeah. I guess to your point about should the Gambit deck be nerfed or should the Carter deck be nerfed more? Maybe that's where it was a little more towards because I do think this hits the Carter deck harder, and I think the Carter deck is more of a competitive top end deck. I think it's better. I think it needed to get nerfed more. Um, but I don't think people are playing it that much lower down. And Gambit is just so much more in your face.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think I've been hearing, oh, Ascani died for Gambit Sins. I think Ascani is the better card. I think it deserved the
I
nerf
agree.
more.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It's just not as it's just not how they've normally approached it, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like I was actually talking to the guy who runs Snap Complete yesterday. And he ran a query on the Ascani Carter deck, right? And this is one of those things where it's like statistics are backing up what I already think, so obviously the statistics are right, kind of deal.
Yeah,
So
sure.
grain of salt, right? Like I don't think this is proof positive of anything. But I've been saying for an extended period of time that that deck is super busted and also probably the hardest deck to play in Marvel Snap. In terms of executing your own game plan, you are going to leave 40% of your power on the table if you don't understand what you're doing. Maybe more. And
I don't know if I'd agree if that being the hardest deck to play, but I do agree I do agree with the fundamental part of what you're saying.
well, he looked at it. And basically, if you're below 8,000 SP, the deck has a losing win rate. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a bad deck for you to play below 8,000 SP. And that's not because of metagame differences or anything like that. It's not like, oh, there's a bunch of counters in here. It's that people below 8,000 SP are not playing the deck right. Like, that's what's going on. That is my, or at least that is my theory of that, because it's like, that deck is heinous. It is obscenely powerful. It's currently the rank 1 deck in the game in the hands of friend of the podcast, Smiz. And it's just a deeply, deeply messed up combo deck that is a lot of good players, I think. A lot of really good players tend to not understand difficulty in execution because it's all very obvious to them. But I think that it is one of the most difficult to execute on decks in Marvel Snap and has remained such the entirety of its run. And that has overwhelmingly caused it to be not regarded with the fear that it probably should be among the general population community, because they're not playing against the people who are actually doing broken stuff with it. They're playing against people who are playing like the mid rolls out, right?
Yeah.
And to my mind, that's just not a deck they typically nerf. You're right about that. It is going against type. And it is very weird that they would aim at Ascani instead of Gambit. The only explanation I can think of, and this is going to be the one that people are going to throw tomatoes at me through the screen for. What if Gambit isn't that good? Like, what if Gambit has a 48% win rate?
I kind of think, I mean, to some extent, I do kind of think that's true, and Ascani getting nerfed is going to like really hurt Gambit. Like even in the Gambit deck, like like Ascani, this change is huge. I think this change really hurts any Mother Ascani deck, and therefore it will hurt Gambit. And Gambit is kind of just broken to some extent because Ascani's broken. That being said, I still think you could take a point or two of like is a tech card. You shouldn't be a 3/5 stat line on a tech card.
Yeah, they're like, I said they were 1 point over a while ago. And you know what an OTA is great for is dinging stuff 1 point.
Yeah.
And
I just
like it's one of those things that just doesn't make a ton of sense to me why they wouldn't do it. Unless, and this is why I'm sort of trying to like reverse engineer from their actions, right? What if, like, when they look at the numbers, Gambit has a 48% win rate? Like, that's the only thing I can think of.
It might be true. I just, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, people are playing Gambit and really bad shit, so it's tanking the stats. But I don't know. I do think really at the end of the day, Ascani was the driving force behind pretty much this, like all the good decks. So
At
it
least
was
the two
pretty
best
obvious.
ones, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It is funny though, because in terms of like what's a better card to nerf, Ascani is kind of fun and not obviously broken. So not really where I expected them to go. I'm not upset over it. I do think Gambit should have been hit, but I think this will shake up the metagame. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see where it goes. Yeah.
So, like, let's start with, is Captain Carter combo as currently constituted just dead?
No.
You think it's still an Ascani Grandmaster deck?
Yes, but I think there could be room to change some things
I'll
around.
say this. When I play Captain Carter combo, I think a lot of the time playing Ascani is wrong. Like, a
Yeah,
lot more of the time than would be implied by it being nerfed.
right. I think Ascani Grandmaster is kind of dead,
Mhm.
but I think you still wanna run Grandmaster in that deck just because of Brood.
Yeah, I
And
here's one. I think Ascani Grandmaster was basically always bad because it's always better to Grandmaster the Brood.
Right, right. I just meant like the Ascani
Right.
Grandmaster combo as a 2-card combo for Sasquatch, for all these other things. I think that took a huge hit, and it deserved to take a huge hit. It
Yep.
was way too busted.
The Sasquatch stuff strikes me as the kind of thing that would still be alive for what it's worth.
Maybe because it already has the discount on Sasquatch
It has
anyway.
inbuilt
Oh,
discount, and duplicating the Sasquatches is actually just like super valuable because they're just numbers, right?
yeah, I mean that specific interaction is good, but the reason you could afford to run Grandmaster in that deck is because Ascani Grandmaster
Yeah.
hitting anything was good, and now that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, you may
I
have to be a little smarter about it, right? Like
yeah.
the energy discount was huge for that. And you know, you still get -1 on it on the copy, on the second copy, but it's nowhere it doesn't scale as high, it's nowhere near as good. Um,
Something Jeff Hoagland's been saying a lot. And I think say what you want about Jeff, he does notice things, right? I is that he feels like they've been nerfing engine pieces really hard and disruptive pieces not nearly as hard, right? And you see the examples he gave when I last talked to him about it were like uh Star-Lord and Sholau got like nuked to death. Meanwhile, Gambit is just chilling. Mother Ascani, the engine card, gets hit. Gambit is just chilling. And this combines with a lot of weak new card releases to form an environment where instead of strong engines defining Marvel Snap or defining the recent year of released cards, the strong engines get nerfed, and for some reason, the card that defines the last 6 months is Gambit. And I think, if like you can nitpick a couple of those things, right? Like Sholau got a small nerf before it got a big one. Star-Lord got 2 small nerfs before it got a big one. Like it's not like they instantly kill those cards or anything like that. But I do think like broad strokes, that's not an incorrect thing to think. Like I don't think they're doing it necessarily, but the results of their decisions have made that not a crazy thing to think is what I would say.
I mean, I think it's definitely accurate in
Yeah.
terms of they are attacking engine pieces more. Should they attack engine pieces more? I think they should because the engine pieces have come out much more impactful and therefore, you know, you kind of need to hit them harder because pieces have been scaling like crazy compared to
I
2
get
weeks
it.
ago.
I just think that like I wish they'd saved themselves some trouble 6 months ago by nerfing all the cards that say copy on them. And
Sure.
instead of saving themselves that trouble, they printed a better card that says copy on it. And it's like I just feel
Yeah,
like that's free not to do. You
I
know?
agree. I
Like
think we've said this the last 3 podcasts.
yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
I like I think there's also this thing where it's like cards miss low a decent amount of the time. Like if you ask me what the best card they released in terms of like is cool, is fun, is strong, I would never nerf it in a million years. I would say Venus.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And
The
I
only thing I'd change about that is the voice line.
yeah. And I think, you could also say maybe Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Sure. Yeah,
I
that's a
think
great
that's
card.
another one where it's just like he's great. I'm not worried about him. If you want to nerf him to a 1/1 6 months from now, I'm probably going to be annoyed about it. Even like I think it's just great, right?
Yeah.
I kind of wonder about like how capable are they of hitting those highs consistently? Because I don't think they've hit those highs a lot of the rest of the time. I
It's
think
I mean, yeah.
yeah, like I think Gambit hit those highs. I think Sholau hit those highs. I think Mother Ascani hit those highs. I think Star-Lord hit those highs, but they hit them too high. And they broke the scale, and suddenly they're like actual problems that have to be dealt with. And I think that, generally speaking, for a game that's made a lot of noise about being about two ships passing in the night, their nerfs don't seem to be delivering on that. And like, look, what do I know? Maybe that was a Glenn thing, right? Maybe that was a Glenn thing, and Glenn left, and they were like, let's do something else. Let's try to just like balance by data or whatever, you know? Like, I don't know. But it does seem to me like, not that that's an, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know if what Jeff is saying with regards to their intent is true, but I don't think it's inaccurate with regards to the results.
I would agree with that. The only thing I perhaps would maybe disagree with is to whether or not that's the correct thing to do and a good thing.
Yeah,
Right?
I think he thinks it's not. So let's
Right.
start there.
Yeah. No, and to some extent, sure, but I do think because the engine pieces have just been more broken, like that's
Yeah.
probably the right course of action.
Yeah, I mean,
Like I would I guess just specifically with like if we're talking about Ascani versus Gambit, right? Like I do think Ascani was just the better card, and this idea that Ascani is dying for Gambit's sins is maybe looking at it a little too like it's just not correct. I think Ascani probably would. It's more like Gambit is thriving because of Ascani's sins. Really,
sure. I also think that there's Marvel Snap has a type of player who enjoys stopping other people from doing anything. And Gambit being a tech card, like, if you really drill down into it, what is the specific thing he's teching against? He's teching against scalers. That's what he techs against. He techs against Sam Wilson, Craven, Batroc. He techs against decks that are trying to play a 2-drop and then buff that 2-drop. He techs against Zoo Marvel Boy. He techs against, to some degree, Aurora decks, right? Like, not exactly well, but like that's sort of the like line, right? Like you get up to Aurora and then he stops being good because then you get into like Doom 2099 and then he's just like kind of actively doing nothing there, right? But how much of people's dislike of Gambit, and I'm going to tie in another card here, Iska the Unbeaten, who also techs against like a certain type of play style, which is to say like prio get the board decks. That's what Iska techs against. How much of that is that we've just never had a real tech card in that sense for those cards? We've had ways of getting rid of their outputs before, when like Shadow King was a 2/2 and everyone was playing him, things like that. But we've never had, I think Iska, we've never had a card that punishes you for being ahead like she does. Not since old Shang-Chi. And I think with Gambit, we've never had a card that punishes you for, like, your whole game plan is this. Like, I don't want to say it punishes you for playing the game. But if you're doing Sam Wilson, Batroc, Craven, you spend the entire game going whoop, 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 and then your shit gets blown up, and you're like, this sucks. That was my whole deck. I spent 6 turns doing that. They did nothing, and they beat me. And I think that to some degree, I have a lot more sympathy for a tech card that is ongoing on the board and telling you that something is going to happen, like a Stardust or a Mobius, than I do for a card that shows up later in the game and says, this thing you've been doing for most of the game, it doesn't matter. And Iska has that effect against Prio decks, where it's like, oh, nice investment. Idiot. You spent 4 turns getting ahead? Stop. You're not ahead anymore. And Gambit has that even more, where it's like, it's turn 6. I don't know what my opponent's been copying. They play 4 Gambits. My entire Batroc board is gone. And I think that specific thing is a big part of the distaste for those specific cards. Because I'll say, I think Iska is a perfectly fine and balanced card, and that has nothing to do with all the Aurora decks that I play. But like, I do think she's a great card that is massively appealing. She has a cool line of text, and she's mostly not broken. Like, every great card is going to be like kind of on the line of, is this too good? That's kind of what makes them great cards, right? If there's not something there that's like, this is awesome and great to do, well, no one plays the card. So there is something to, like, there's a line these cards have to ride. Like, I'm sure there are people out there who think Venus needs to be nerfed, right? She doesn't, but that's not the point. The point is that, like, in order for a card to be a great card, it has to be at least powerful enough to make people think that, I think. And I think there is a degree to which these cards feel bad in ways that other tech cards don't necessarily.
Yeah, with Iska, I mean, Iska, you just can get Shadow King, so I think that's totally fair. You know, if you already have a Cosmo in the lane, then we're talking about a 2-card combo that, sure, that wins a lane, but that's 7 energy to win a lane. I think, you know, that sometimes it sucks because it's like that's the lane you've invested heavily in in your early game, but you know what? At the end of the day, I think that's totally fair. It is
I
what
think
it
Iska's
is.
a very fair card, and honestly, this is another tomato take. I think playing with and against Iska is some of the most fun stuff you get in Marvel Snap.
You mean like going for contesting Iska lanes or like tying Iska lanes?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it's
I don't know if I'd
really
say
compelling emergent gameplay that I didn't expect to be feeling this way about. She looks like
no.
a boring idiot, but she's not.
I think it's very legit. Yeah, I wouldn't say the most fun, but I would say it is compelling and it is strategic, and I think it's fine. I don't have any problem with Iska. You started on for Gambit is like, have we ever had this sort of universal tech card for cheap scalers? And I think the answer is like pretty clearly no, in the sense that it's always been different pieces of the puzzle, right? Like Killmonger deals with 1-cost
Yeah.
scalers. Enchantress would deal with like a Morbius or like, you know, an ongoing low cost scaler or like a Hydra Stomp or whatever. And then, you know, Shadow King obviously is like the closest thing.
Old
Besides,
Red Guardian was pretty close, I think.
I mean, old Shang, I
Yeah.
guess. But the fact that Gambit sort of addresses every low cost scaler, but you kind of usually don't know until the end of the game, is it going to hit my low cost scaler or hit their low cost scaler? It's just it's a frustrating play pattern, and it's probably too universally good. I don't really know what the right way to fix it would be, other than maybe like boost the power and make it a 4-cost, so you can't, like, I maintain that one Gambit is ethical, or like fine. Maybe ethical is not the right word. I think that's a running joke, but one Gambit is fine, and then when you copy it, that's when it starts to get, you know, not fun, bad play pattern. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's a dumbass pitch that definitely sucks. What if Gambit's a 5/8?
I think, but then I think you have to increase the ability.
What if Gambit's a 5/8 that blows up 4?
I think that would probably be fine and maybe not even good.
I think it's probably like bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely a card that I think is unique here. I guess I want to drill down. Mother Ascani getting nerfed in the way that she did. I think that Gambit decks, there's always kind of a fine line, right? If you're the deck that's playing 5 tech pieces and you lose 3 or 4 points out of your deck, you might think that's not a big deal, but it very often is, right? You go from winning a bunch of lanes that have, you know, mid-teens power to losing a bunch of lanes that have mid-teens power, because if you're a deck that plays all these tech pieces, kind of fundamentally what you're doing is trying to lock the game into, we're not playing, neither of us are really outputting a bunch of cards right now. And one of the major dominant Gambit decks is like definitely one of those decks. And so losing out on Ascani Grandmaster, losing out on that stuff, I do think it's probably meaningful to the super tech card heavy version of the Gambit list. I am less convinced it's meaningful to the Sasquatch version, because I think that deck just wants 2 Sasquatches really badly.
Yeah, I don't think the Sasquatch version is as good though.
I think it's better.
You think?
Yeah, that's
Well,
kind of
are we
always been my
talking
preferred
about?
version.
I guess now that we're in like now that we're in like the Stardust in that list, then
Yeah.
I am not a believer in the Stardust.
Yep.
So I think it's that version is worse than the Sasquatch one. But when it was like the double gambit, no Stardust thing,
Yeah, maybe,
I
yeah.
thought yeah, I thought that one was a little bit better. But I think it's not just the power. I think the cost is a huge deal too, because even if you're not Ascaniing your gambit, you still have to trigger Gambit's condition. And a lot of times Ascani was really helping you do that, right?
Yep.
Because you're actually not always getting that many created cards, right?
That's the
Because
other reason I like the Sasquatch one better, by the way. You get one Ascani hit on a Sasquatch, that's a 6.
right, and then it's automatically triggered.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. Um so I do think this change is a big deal, and I think it'll really hurt that deck. And I think that deck needed to be hurt. I maybe I don't think this does enough to I think we started off by saying it hits the Carter deck more, but now I'm actually kind of like, okay, I think it hits the Carter deck less, and that one probably
Why?
needed to get hit. Because I think that Carter deck is just fine, and if you were not mothering, grandmastering mothering, then it was not even necessarily the best line anyway. So it still like has as much of the combo, it just has a little bit less consistency. So I don't know. I'm that the more I think about it, the more I'm like, is it actually that big of a deal for that deck?
I will say this. I think Mother Ascani was like the 6th or 5th best card in that deck.
Yeah.
And I used to say that was Stick, but I think Stick is definitely better than her at this point. Like,
Well, I think this hurts Stick a lot.
I agree
In
it
that
hurts
deck.
Stick because that was a good Ascani target, but I'm not
Yeah.
cutting that dude because he lets me like play a guy, right?
Yeah.
I wonder about Storm. Because I think Mother Ascani went a long way towards compensating for Storm being a
Being busted.
problem. And like Mother Ascani was also the best thing to do off of a Storm because you get the Storm buff and then multiply that with the Mother Ascani
Yeah.
buff. And I do think that those two are a little bit closer connected than many of the other cards in the list. And I wonder, you know, like, are we going to be a Jeff Sam deck? I'm not saying we necessarily will be, but I do think Mother Ascani was doing a pretty decent amount of work supplementing Storm Horseman of Famine here, and of course vice versa. Those cards were tied a little bit. Like my starts that involved both of them, I was much more likely to play Ascani after a Storm Horseman of Famine than I was when I didn't have a Storm Horseman of Famine. That's what I'll say. And she really helps. Ascani really helps make up for the lack of bodies that
Yeah.
can otherwise happen in that deck. And so I'm not saying Carter combo is going to die. I don't think Carter combo is going to die. But I would at least start investigating if there was another build out there that can maybe use those slots a bit more efficiently.
I mean, you may end up cutting Mother, frankly,
Yeah,
because
like
if you
that's
think about
I'm
the
wondering.
curve, the beauty of Mother was that you could either get, hey, my 4 costs, you know, whether it's Stick or if you're
If you're
running
literally just Smiz, you play Horseman Wolverine.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. But having to, like, that was a premier Mother target because turning a 4 into 2 3s is a really big deal. Turning it into a 4 and a 3, you better have the hope out because otherwise
Yup.
your curve is awkward. And if you do have the herp out, the hope out, turning it into even turning a 3 into 2 2s means you can go 3 2 2 on the last turn, and that's great. But now all of a sudden your Mother lines are a lot more murky, and I'm interested to see if it's still going to be run. I don't know the answer. My gut says I think it might actually be cut.
Yeah,
Could be.
I think it's very possible that at the very least, I used to be like very sold on Storm Horseman. That's the one I'm playing on 3 compared to Hope Summers. I no longer think that's necessarily true. And I'm no longer 100% on Mother Ascani here. I'm not saying I'm not, but like, I don't know if have you ever played a Mother Ascani game where the location that makes your created cards cost 1 more is there? You're like,
With that deck
yeah, with that
specifically?
deck.
I stopped playing that deck because it was too busted.
I
So
have, and you're just like, oh, that is way worse than I thought it was.
yeah,
Like every time you do it, it's just like, oh, that is way worse than I thought it was going to be. And like the deck is strong, you can play through it, but I I do think like effectively that's what they did, right? Not only did they do that, they also said no power. Because we're not
Yeah,
really interacting with the created card aspect of it in that deck.
right.
So just saying like there's a sandbar and also no power. I actually think like that hurts the card a lot in the
That
Carter
actually,
deck.
yeah, that is exactly what it is, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just flipping which card it does
Yeah.
plus cost, and it's removing the GM stuff from it, which which
It's
is a pretty big deal. A pretty
yeah. It's something. I don't know what I'd look to replace it with. I haven't done any other work for that. But it's definitely like, oh, I am aware of this. I am aware that this could be bad here. 30 minutes on Mother Ascani.
I mean,
Who's
it
next?
deserved it. Yeah. And it was a Scotty Gambit too, right?
Sure.
Because yeah.
Who's
Uh,
next?
next is sorry, my dog was it's really hot out here, so my dog was whining at me, but it would be Super Giant, which went from a 4/6 to a 4/5 and otherwise did not change.
World's freest nerf. They
Yeah,
could have
I
done
mean,
this at any time.
you know what's crazy? I'm an anti-tech guy. I don't think they needed it. I don't think
I
it
don't think
needed
they
it.
needed to do this, but I also
Yeah,
think it was free, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I mean by free. Like,
I
free
yeah.
doesn't just mean this is overpowered, you could take a point off of it. It also means like no one's gonna complain, even if you're wrong.
Yeah, I guess it's a concession to, the Jeff Hoagland, they're only nerfing the engine cards, not the tech stuff. Yeah, all right, this is
Oh,
a concession.
hold
Let's take
on.
it.
I'll go backwards the other way. Supergiant is the engine of tech cards.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, there we
They
go.
could have
Yeah,
nerfed
all right, whatever.
Negasonic. They could have nerfed
Yeah.
Shadow King, but instead they nerfed Supergiant. Aha. Ah. You don't get it. You don't get it. You don't operate on this level.
No, I mean, I'm following and just like, all right, whatever. It's Super Giant's a tech card. Let's move on. Yeah, I mean, this change is a let's move on change. It's sure.
Yep.
I don't love tech decks, so yay. But I also don't think they needed it. They needed this nerf, so
I
whatever.
think Supergiant's basically just been one of the 5 best decks in Marvel Snap for 6 to 7 months. And
Yeah,
sure, whatever.
yeah, but I feel like Supergiant decks don't often even need Supergiant, so
Yeah,
that's
but
been my take.
Supergiant is a deck that cares pretty deeply about its own cards. Like, if they wanted to get serious about nerfing Supergiant, they'd nerf, like, Wilson Fisk, Iron Patriot. But I
Yeah,
don't think they want to get serious about it. I think they just want to be like, whack.
yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Yep.
I forgot. I actually forgot. This is the second most probably
I was surprised you
the
went
most
straight to
interesting
Supergiant. Yeah.
change. Well, I'm just going in order. I pulled the OTA
Mm,
notes.
mm.
Luke Cage. I know we're gonna so we've already
We disagree
disagreed
about
this.
this. Yeah.
Um, Luke Cage. I think this is an awesome change.
Okay, we agree on that part. Let's read what the changes first.
So it is going from a 3/2 to a 2/2. The ongoing effect now only affects front row cards, not every card.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think this is a buff, and I think this is an awesome change. I think it's a buff in the sense that, well, I guess it's an awesome change in that Luke is not just universal anymore, which it shouldn't have ever been. But I think it's ultimately a buff, and I think it's a really cool way to do it. Um, I think Luke decks don't always have you don't often have your back row's not often full. And it's really good into Phantom X, which it like literally does not nothing changes except for like Marrow in the Phantom X decks. Um but like you don't necessarily just auto lose if you're playing an afflict deck and you run into a Luke Cage deck. It's not a guaranteed loss anymore. And I think that's cool. It's still a incredible tech card against that deck, but it's not an auto lose.
I agree with that. I think that is correct. I think they found a good way to keep 80% of Luke Cage's power intact, but I'm not sure I agree it's a buff. So let me run through my thoughts rather than just saying like blanket buff nerf, because I think this is a pretty nuanced conversation, and just being like thumbs up, thumbs down does it a disservice. That said,
Yeah.
I will do a thumbs up, thumbs down later, but I want you to get the context first. Um Luke Cage is mostly the same card, but it does not carry the surety that it previously did. And I think that when it comes to tech cards, surety is what gets them into decks. Knowing that when you come up across this matchup, you're going to win it. My Mobius is going to do this. My Stardust is going to do this. And I'm interested to see how the community reacts to Luke Cage like this, because I think that a lot of people think of tech cards as safety blankets, right? This is what's going to keep me safe from whatever deck I'm worried about that's going over the top of me. And I think Luke Cage is still going to do that some of the time. But every other tech card does it all the time. And I think that that's a big part of the psychology of tech cards. I also think... Oh, go ahead.
I agree with everything you just said in terms of, from a safety blanket perspective, worst card. But it's more interesting because it's a 2-drop.
Oh, no. To be clear,
you have to play it.
Strongly agree this is a more interesting, cooler card like this. Strongly agree.
I was going to continue on to why I think it's a buff. I think the fact that I think it's worse overall if you just want to jam it in a random deck and use it just as tech. But in decks that already wanted to play Luke Cage, I think it's a buff because 3 costs is awkward for 2 power.
I agree with
2
that.
costs, even if it may look, cases where Luke was an auto win, if it's an 85% win, but you actually can play it easier, I think that makes up the difference.
Here's my question. I have 2. First one is, how many decks want to play a tech card Luke Cage right now?
Not that many, but the ones that do, I think, are better.
Like what?
Like Afflict. You can play a 4 cost and a 2 cost, which is huge.
Okay. So Luke Cage is now better in Afflict, which is now worse because more people are playing Luke Cage?
If more people are... I don't think more people will be playing Luke Cage. I think it's a better card, but it's a niche card.
Okay.
Like, I think that's the difference. I think it's better as a niche card, which, like, the card should be niche, right? It's pretty bad if this is everywhere.
Here's my second one. And this is the big one. I think that I've seen a lot of good players saying this is a buff. And, like, I respect all of you, right? Like, you guys are smart people.
Well, we're wrong all the time. So
I just think you're wrong about this for one very important reason. It's actually hard as fuck to get a 2/2 in your deck. It's actually really hard. Like, that's a really, really difficult thing to do. If you're that's like, people act like it's the easiest thing in the world. And then they'll point to a thing that's not a 2/2, right? They'll be like, oh, I played Jeff the Baby Dolphin. Not a 2/2. That's a 2/8. Shut up, right? Like these are not 2/2s. Everything that sees play at the 2 cost is like a 2/3. Everything that sees play at 2 cost is 2/3 and up. I've been playing Tarantula recently in my Aurora deck. Man, it sucks to run that guy out there on turn 2. That's a turn 4 play, right? Like, I saw a couple people comparing this to when Mobius went from 2/3 to 3/3, but in reverse, and how Mobius was super busted at 2/3. But that was at the end of 2023 when Mobius was a 2/3. The only other good 2-drop in the game was Angela. We didn't have Iron Patriot. We didn't have Sam Wilson. We didn't have Kate Bishop. We didn't have any of these cards that are actually good at 2/3. That's not to say anything of the fact that now they're actually printing cards that are kind of good at 2/4. Invisible Woman, low-key, a bit of an insane card to be a 2/4. Like, I get that she's niche and all that, but, like, every time I see her and I see the 2/4 stat line, I'm like, Jesus. Cable, 2/4. I actually think that if you're one of these, like, mid-range tech decks, the biggest thing you tend to care about is getting ahead early. You care deeply about that. You care about get ahead early, and then you care about lock out the game. And I don't think Luke Cage gets ahead early, and I'm not sure he locks out the game. And so I think that this is one of those situations where maybe the play rate goes up. But in terms of what he does, I can't not look at this as a nerf.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't want to play Luke Cage in that deck. Why? I don't know why we're
Okay.
talking about.
That's good because it clarifies where you're coming from here, because I'm like, that's how Mobius is played, and that's how people seem to be talking about this. It's like, I don't think I'm doing that.
I'm not loving the Mobius comparisons. That's not where I'm at.
Okay.
I'm coming at it from the decks that do like. I don't think it should be a safety blanket catch-all. Oh, my cards aren't being afflicted. I think the old Luke wasn't good in that. The new Luke's not good in that. I don't think anything changes there. I think the places.
You know what? I just realized. You know what deck really likes 2/2 Luke Cage like this?
Afflict.
No, ongoing.
Yeah,
ongoing loves a 2-drop.
You know what? So this is where when you're saying a lot of good players are saying this is a buff, this is where I'm diverging and I'm going even further. I think this is good in Cerebro. I think it's a better change in Cerebro for everything but C3.
Go on.
Because specifically C3, you want to play 2 3s on the last turn, right? And in that case, it was like sometimes you want to play Luke last with a bro, but you really most of the time it's like bro Mystique, bro Chameleon, whatever, blah blah blah. But in every other Cerebro deck, where you're not necessary, where you maybe want to play like 2 3 1, 2 4, whatever, blah blah blah. This is huge. Like I think this is really really good. I think this is going to be a lot better in like C5 if you're running Luke. I think this is going to be better in basically any other Cerebro deck. Maybe not, I don't know, C2. C2 is kind of dead anyway, but a lot of people are saying like, oh, this is a buff in everything but Cerebro. I think it's a buff in Cerebro. If you think about it in Cerebro, unless you're playing Afflict, you really only care about Luke Cage because of the locations, right?
Yeah.
And if you're seeing the -3 locate, or -3 to all cards here locations, you're winning that locations with 2 front row cards anyway. You don't need 4 cards there.
I'll say this though. I think Luke Cage has artificially constrained the development of any meaningful counterplay to Cerebro, because you'd think that an Afflict deck would be a good thing to play against Cerebro, and it just ends up being a dog shit ass horrendous one, right? I do think that him being like this opens that counterplay space back up that has been held back by his existence as a permanent negator for so long. So I don't think what you're describing is always going to be true. I think it is very possible that Afflict decks sort of develop as an emergent style of like.
You say that, but like at the end of the day, if you're an Afflict deck, you don't have the points to beat 2 front row Cerebro cards. If it's
that's embarrassing.
Yeah, you just don't have the points.
But like, my point is that you just turn it off, right? You turn off some of them somewhere, presumably.
How would you do that? I'm confused.
I don't know. I'm working on it. I don't know. Do you really not have the points to beat 2 front row Cerebros? It's 18.
In multiple lanes? I don't know if you do.
I think you can get above 18 in 2 lanes in Afflict.
Can you, with Ajax not being big enough?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can get above 18 in 2 lanes with Afflict. I don't think that's just that 18, bad.
It's not just. I don't know. I think you'd be just fine.
Interesting. I'll go the other way. I think this is a nerf in everything but ongoing. Maybe Afflict, probably Afflict. I think it's probably just Afflict loves 2s so bad. Ongoing loves 2s so bad that this is just like, I'll take it, right? Those are 2 decks that just need 2s. I think it's a buff there. I could see it maybe being a buff to Luke Cage's splashability in like a Venus shell, if that ever existed, but it doesn't. So like, what are we talking about, right? My best guess is that it's mostly only going to be a buff in those 2 shells, Afflict and ongoing. That would be my best guess.
And I'm not like adamant that I'm correct at all. I definitely could see this being a nerf. I definitely could see it being like bad in Cerebro for sure. My gut says it's a buff. I'm not like sure.
we're all doing gut stuff here. It's
I just
the gut
like
hour.
I could easily see this take being entirely wrong. I mean, a lot of my takes are wrong all the time. I'm used to it.
I wouldn't know what that's like.
I'm
Never been
not
wrong in my
super
life.
I'm not married to this one, but I do kind of I think it's a great change, and I'm really interested to see where it goes.
We both agree
Um,
it's a great change. My best guess is it's going to be kind of like the Gambit change, where a bunch of you guys insist that it was a buff, and I'm just like, no, it wasn't. What are you talking about? Like that's how I expect to be talking about this in a month. Where like you guys are like, it was a buff, and I'm like,
I
guys, it
I
definitely
still
wasn't.
kind of think Gambit was a buff, but that's
Exactly.
fine.
And I'm like,
Um,
guys, it definitely wasn't, right? But like to me, those are the changes where it's like plus or minus 10%, basically.
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think this is a bigger change than the Gambit change. It's gonna swing one way or the other more. Is my
Interesting. Okay.
yeah.
That's one we'll keep an eye on. Who's next on
We'll
the
see.
list?
Spider-Man 2099. This is we're going from a change I love to a change I hate.
I
I
don't know if
this is
I hate it. I just wish
I
they'd
hate it.
sort of this feels like a bunt to me.
This is a very uninspired change in my opinion. It's moving to a 4/5 with movable. When this moves to location, afflict a card here with -3 power. Um, Look, a lot of people are saying we need a 4-cost movable card. Aunt May's problem is there's not enough movable cards. That's great.
It's
I don't
true.
know why. I don't. This feels like a very uninspired ability change, where we're basically making a more expensive Spider Punk. I liked old Spider-Man 2099 flavor wise. Obviously, just giving movable to that card would have maybe been too good. Probably been too good.
Definitely would have been too good. Are we
Yeah,
serious?
probably. Yeah, it would have been too good. But I mean, you could have kept the identity and just changed
Yeah, all
the
right. I'm playing Gambit Spider-Man 2099. Have fun, buddy. Like,
no. But I mean, like we didn't have to make Spider-Man 2099 the 4-cost movable whatever. Blah blah
that's
blah.
where I want to start. I have a different card that I would have rather they made the 4-cost movable. You ready for this?
Vision,
Stegron.
Stegron, sure, yeah,
I think they
that would
should
have
have
been
just
cool.
slapped movable on Stegron.
Yeah, let's do that. That's great. I love that. That sounds fun. I would have been so. You probably have to take a power
Nope.
off.
Just put movable on him. Don't take a power off.
All right, whatever. That's fine. I don't care. I just this is it's just like making I don't love the hey, we're just making it's not the exact same text, right? Like because it's afflict and it's not steel. But like why are we just making a different cost version of
It just feels like space filler, right?
yeah, it
Because
does.
that's
It
what it
does.
is. It's like, oh,
But
here. It's like a here damn change. Like here,
sure,
damn. Take the 4-drop. You got it. Here's a 4-cost movable. Take joy. And it's like, can we please do like again, I don't think the afflict is the wrong thing to do. I don't think that's like necessarily incorrect, but it's just like very unexciting 4-cost movable. It's just like it's like they went to the 4-cost movable store and were like, what is the most obvious design here? And then took it off the shelf and were like, there you go. And like it does feel like that a little bit. And again, I don't know if that's like the incorrect thing to do. Like there's a thesis out there that's like Aunt May needs more expensive movable cards that are actually payoffs. And it's like, okay, I respect the idea of giving them one. I'm with it. I will say you mentioned Vision. I think that Vision going to
new
4 is
player
exactly
experience
the wrong way to do it.
because of the new player experience.
Not
Sure.
because the new player experience, just because like when I look at Vision, what I see is a card that says functionally movable 1 in a cooler way.
Sure.
And I don't think that it's actually taking away from anything to just have that mostly be movable 1. I think that's actually good. It's a great way to write text such that it's exciting and big and cool and gets you thinking about things. I have a theory of card gamers, which is basically a lot of them spend a lot less time playing the game and a lot more time fantasizing about the game. And
That's
yeah,
me.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's me.
I come up with my decks in the shower.
Like
You know, it's
fantasizing,
totally
but like you do it in like a sort of, adult grown up way, right? My favorite cards when I was a kid playing Magic the Gathering were cards I never ever got to actual cast in a game of Magic the Gathering. I would just like be like, "Oh my god, this guy's so cool," right? Like I think that it's not actually a failure for Vision to have really cool text that doesn't ever really meaningfully get delivered on. I think that's analogous to like a really expensive big card in Magic, right? You see this card and it's like, wow, this is really cool text. Then you play an actual game of Magic and you die before you can cast it. But that doesn't mean the card was supposed to be cheaper, because part of the dream of it was, what if I can do this? And so when I look at Vision, what I see is a card that has an additional line of text that's basically like foolproofing, right? A lot of other move cards, you don't move them because you can only move them once. Even with Spider-Man 2099, movable is a resource that you spend. Vision is the only one that, by virtue of that, it's like, oh, a limbo flipped up? Cool. I can move my Vision around however I want. I don't even have to think about it like that. I'm totally free from thinking about it. And so I think it's a great upscale of movable, despite the fact that you almost never actually get to engage with moving a lot of the time, because when you actually think about what a 4-cost Vision would be, you're like, oh, that kind of sucks.
Yeah,
That's not fun. Like,
and to expand on your, hey, basically the power fantasy being the ultimate goal, essentially. I've never played a game of Yu-Gi-Oh in my life. I know what Exodia does.
Yep. Like
is that not the prime example of that? Like,
Yep.
that is just pure power fantasy.
And Vision is nowhere near that, to be clear.
Right, sure.
But I think just like, you know, to compare, right, like, to my mind, the choices for Vision when they made the game were to write movable 1 effectively, or to write, you can always move this, right?
Yeah.
And they made the exact correct choice of writing the cooler line of text. And even though it doesn't matter most of the time, you still get to read that card as an 8-year-old kid and be like, whoa, I can Nightcrawler only once, but this guy as many times as I want. Like, that is valuable to me. Yeah. And I think that additionally, it also doesn't solve the problem, because you're like, if you move Vision to 4-cost, it's like, okay, well, we need a 5-cost now. So, like, the fuck are we doing here if we're trying to solve the Aunt May problem?
Yeah.
We need a 4 and a 5, actually. But that is, I guess, neither here nor there. Vision, of course, is both here and there, quantumly.
Exactly. I just don't like that they took what it was a very flavorful card. Yeah, it didn't see much play, but I mean, Spider 2099 was super unique. And now they made it not unique at all.
I just think they should have given him like 2 more points of power than he has.
Yeah, I don't think this. Also, I don't think this is going to change things in terms of, like, I don't think this is enough to make the Aunt May archetype competitive, but whatever.
2 more points of power than he has.
Do we know, tying this back to Luke, do we know, so if you were to move an afflict card into a Luke Cage lane, would it randomly hit and then get blocked?
It would almost certainly randomly.
That's what I thought.
There's no way, like, there's no way it targets the thing it can actually hit. I know how armor works. I refuse to believe it.
Yeah. I figured but you know, whatever.
I mean, I also am figuring right now, but like, come on now, you know?
Yeah.
Like, no way. I don't know. I just think this guy should be a 4/7. I'm pretty aggressive with this shit, where it's like,
oh yeah, he's a 4/5, so it's not good.
Like, I feel like if I said, also, I don't know how to explain this. Why does the number 7 feel right on a Spider-Man 2099 to me?
I don't know.
I don't know why. It just feels like it's like, that does seem like 4/7. Yeah, that does seem futuristic.
Because he's like Spider-Man, but he's 8, but he's not exactly. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's because I think it's because it's jagged. It's like an angular, like, odd number, right? It's like, like you draw it in 2 slashes, and that seems like his kind of thing, basically.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. I don't know. It could be interesting. Maybe it's better than I think, but I don't think it's a needle mover. But we'll see.
I mean, they also buffed Aunt May to 2/4. I'll skip ahead for that.
Well, that's the next one anyway, because it's the Aunt May package change. So, cool. I like Aunt May.
Do you?
I thought. Well, if I like conceptually, I guess I thought she was gonna be super busted, and then it turned out I didn't know that movable was only on like 6 cards. So, now it's 7. So that's great. Still don't think it changes anything until we get maybe more movable support. So,
well, here's what I'll say about the space is that if you're like super concerned about a Gambit, putting a lot of buffs on a Vision in 2099 actually seems like kind of a nice thing to do.
Yeah, sure.
Like for all of the like, this is the one that can actually like reasonably play shit that doesn't die to Gambit in the Craven shell. And so it's like we have those. Maybe we have a Wilson Fisk. 2099 is applying his debuffs to your opponent. Like, there's no part of this that's getting blown up really by Gambits and stuff like that between those two and Wilson Fisk. Like, I don't know, right? But I can see at least like a world where I'm like, I'm non-zero interested in using like 4 of my slots on this, because there's some good ass shit in that package, right? Like obviously Sam Wilson, Craven, all that stuff, right? But like Nocturne's just a good ass card. 2/4 Aunt May is just a good ass card. Like just straight up, those are good ass cards. They might not be perfectly relevant to the metagame. Their shells might not be perfectly formed or whatever. They're good. Those are good cards. And that is notable to me. Like
it is, but in this age of synergy, good cards don't cut it anymore.
Right. That is ultimately the issue you run into. But it's not just that they're good cards. It's also like, hey, there's an actual metagame contextual reason for me to want a Vision and a Spider-Man 2099 in my deck so I don't get my shit gambited to death, right? Like there is a thing there where it's like, oh, that is doing something useful for me. Is it better than just playing Mobius? Probably not. But who knows?
Yeah. All right. Next change. Agent 13. We're in our 1 point of power.
Yeah,
era.
but like this is a based 1 point of power change.
Agent 13, yeah, it deserved to be a 1/3.
Yeah, I put this one on. I have put this one in a Fautier before. I'm positive.
Yeah. I think there's just a lot of cards that you could just add 1 point of power because of power creep.
Tell me about it. Again, though, like that's the weird thing, though. People say power creep. I don't think it's power creep in the way that can be alleviated by 1 point of power. And I think if you treat synergy creep with power creep, like if you see the problem being like synergy creep and you're like, okay, let's give stats to this stuff. You just said the stats don't fucking matter. That would be
there is a point
accelerating power creep for the purposes of fixing something that I don't think it actually solves. Which brings me back to please delete every card in Marvel Snap that says copy. But still, like that's I do think that people like, I won't say misdiagnose it because the game is power crept, but it's not power crept in the way that is +1 -1 solvable.
No, but you definitely could bring a lot of cards +1 up.
I agree with that, but would that be for people who are complaining about power creep? It certainly seems like they're advocating a lot of it, right? Like, I don't disagree that you can do that, but I think that it runs the risk of what happens when you actually fix the synergy creep problem. Isn't your game just like boomed to the moon because you buffed a bunch of shit in the context of that, right?
I don't think we're anywhere close to like this. That would have to be a massive overhaul of like 90 cards in the game or something.
We should
like
do a
that
podcast where we're like, we fix Marvel Snap.
Yeah, I mean, we can try. I'm sure we would fail because
I am 100% positive we would fail.
Yeah. And there would be no way to test it.
Well,
but
I
whatever.
think like worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario is I can at least maybe look good at work, right? Because if we do a podcast that's like, we fix Marvel Snap, and then I write it up in a Google Doc, and I'm like, hey, I did this work, right? And then even if it goes absolutely nowhere, it makes me look like someone who's working on this.
You say it would make you look good at work, but I'm thinking like,
maybe it would make me look bad.
Yeah, you would get some people like annoyed, like very like whoever's running the ballot team is like, this is stay in your lane, man.
Yeah, shut
stay
the fuck up. Go market the game, bro.
I'm just thinking like if my director, like at my job, someone else is like, look at this proposal of all the things that I think we should do in your department, he would lose his mind.
Is there a way to phrase it that would make it not be like that? Fuck.
No, there's zero way to
no
phrase
way to do it. Okay.
Unless you have like an in with that guy and you'd be like, hey, I think all these things are cool, and you say it to just him. But I don't know. Whatever. It's probably very different in your scenario. But
yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to do it immediately, but it is the kind of thing where it's like, I feel like it could benefit from like a cohesive manifesto.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
don't
think
think
as
I've
a
ever sat down and written one.
yeah, I think as a content creator, that's totally
Mm,
like
I'm not sure I would
think
benefit from it as a content creator.
no, I
'Cause-
mean it would be less offensive. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Who's next in the +1 -1s?
Lady Bullseye, which is an interesting one because I think Lady well, I don't know if it is
I think
actually
this is your
because
fault.
hold on. Lady Bullseye, we'll agree on two things. Lady Bullseye is actually a good card.
Yes.
Lady Bullseye gets hit really hard by the Ascani change because there's no Bullseye decks
Sure.
that not only no Bullseye decks that don't also want to run Ascani, but also the -1 cost being removed
Big part
from
of
the
it. Yeah.
Ascani copy, really big deal for the Bullseye. Really big deal. So
Okay, sure. Yep, I'm sold.
I buy it.
I buy
buy
it too. That's actually like I didn't consider that. I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you. I like if that is what they're doing, kudos, great job.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, I don't know if that is what they're doing. I think it's just like it doesn't succeed at low
that's my
Elos.
theory. The reason I said this is your fault is because you
Yeah.
popularized the Ascani Ramatut deck
Yeah.
with Lady Bullseye in it. And I
Right.
am 100% positive that deck has a negative win rate at
Yeah.
every.
Sure.
I would go so far as to say every rank. I would say that's a 47%er everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I
And
mean, it's
I
fun, but
think
it
that
is
that
a
is the
little bit crazy.
preponderance of Lady Bullseye stats. And they
Yeah.
looked at Lady Bullseye stats and they were like, fuck. This is a 46% win rate card because everyone's playing Ramatut.
Yeah.
And this is your fault.
Good. I think it's fun. And I really do believe that like more than any other card except maybe Gambit, this gets hit. Like this card, even though it's not
Yep.
popular or meta, and when it is played, it is good. It gets hit real hard by that Ascani change.
Definitely does. But
Yeah.
I also think that like card is straight up good.
Yeah.
Card is just
I agree.
straight up good and now is straight up better.
Yeah. And I mean, Luke Cage, that change, obviously it's good for the Lady Bullseye deck because you're not blocking every hit potentially. I mean, you still might, but I don't know. I think this was a good change because I do think the Ascani stuff is going to really hurt that any Bullseye deck.
Do we want to talk about the Luke Cage change in the context of the Scorpion card they're coming out with that like doubles all afflictions? Is there anything to say there? Do you think like
No, not really.
okay.
I think it'll. I like that Luke Cage no longer auto wins. I mean, it's still like 85% wins against an afflict deck, but like I'm glad it's just not a complete dead matchup. I think like it was really hard to ever bring an afflict deck to a tournament because just if you run into one Luke Cage, you're just dead. And now you're like probably dead, but
only mostly
at least
dead.
you have you're only mostly dead.
Miracle Max can bring you back.
And hey, man, like that's cool. I'd rather you at least have an out than not. And like the fact that it's still 85%, like I don't know, whatever. We don't need to go back into the Luke Cage stuff. I'm interested in Scorpion. I don't think Scorpion will be good. And I hate it because it is another bad hit for Hulkling. But
Highly
I think
relevant.
it's just too
How many Hulklings have you played in the last month?
I was playing Hulkling. The only deck I've played in the last week was Hulkling. So,
What have you been doing?
do we want to talk about my
Yeah.
my adventures?
Yeah, no.
before
I mean, are we done with the OTA?
we have one more. We have Triton.
Triton?
3-6.
Triton to 3-6, which their justification for this is kind of insane. We're worried about the Maverick stuff.
Yeah, so we buffed.
What do you mean you're
Triton.
worried about the Maverick stuff?
Yeah.
You should have been worried about the Maverick stuff, not with Triton.
But they haven't touched the Maverick stuff.
Yeah, you're correct to be worried about the Maverick stuff. I don't know why that caused you to not nerf any of it and then also release Triton bad. Like,
Right.
You're right.
I mean, I guess you could say they nerfed Ascani, but yeah, no. I mean, clearly they are worried about Maverick. So why don't we do something about
Yeah, like,
Maverick?
what is happening here?
Yeah.
I was just like, what do you? Okay, so we were worried about Maverick, but now we're not. What?
Yeah.
You were right then, and you should still be worried about Maverick.
Well, I agree. I've been saying the Maverick Carter deck needs to be nerfed for months.
I mean, apparently, like
whatever.
again, like just based on the public tracker data, like I said, I talked to the Snap Complete guy. Deck actively sucks below 8,000 SP, so I guess we're chilling.
But we're not. They said they're worried about it. Like, it's clearly enough of a thing that it got this footnote. So it's not that it's completely bad, because they're monitoring it, quote unquote. So I don't know.
I don't know. 3/6 Triton's kind of nice with it. That's a big
Yeah,
dude.
I think this card is probably good.
Yeah, that's like one of those Kraglin cards where you're like, everyone's gonna treat it like a friggin' joke. They still don't believe in the Krag. That said, I did lose a game because I'm running a deck with 11 3 costs and a 4 cost, and I lost a game by 1 point because Kraglin hit the 1 4 cost.
What's the 1 4 cost Juggernaut?
It was stick. But yeah, it was like, all right, man. Like, I'm still addicted to Krag, but like, goddamn, that's a come down, you know?
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, hey, you got to take those odds.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know about this. All right, so should we get into
you
my
want to talk about how you got kidnapped in Wyoming?
Well, it was even weirder than that. I went to my sister's bachelorette party, which is not a common statement. The bachelorette party was actually all dudes. No, I was not the stripper. That would be even weirder than my experience. But went to Sheridan, Wyoming, which was a cool town.
The stripper.
Yes, KMBest, stripper. It had there was a rodeo there, so it's a really small town in Wyoming. There's a rodeo. I don't know why we went there. My sister lives in London, so it's a crazy place to go to. Everyone else was from everyone at the bachelor party was either from New York or Spain. So yeah, let's go to Wyoming, I guess. I don't know. Tiny town, one airport, or the airport has like one flight every 2 days, and it turns out it was 108 degrees, which was a record, and the planes that fly to that airplane cannot fly when it's above 100, which you think would be more common in Wyoming. I guess it's not. It's rare enough that that's a thing. So yeah, I ended up not being able to get out of that town. Had to drive to Billings, Montana, which was actually pretty cool. But yeah, I've been stuck in the middle of nowhere for the last couple of days. So not a lot of Marvel Snap.
I gotta tell you, whenever I'm a very politically left wing guy, but whenever I hear about everyone there was from New York, Spain, and London, there's just like a visceral oh, I turn into an American chauvinist instantly.
Well, you would, let me put it this way. I love my sister. You would be right to have that reaction.
There's something inside me that instantly transforms into ooh, the big city people.
No. That's the correct vibe. That has been my week. Okay.
No, I don't want to to be honest with you, that's my family too. I'm by far the least successful person in my family. All my cousins are Harvard people, Harvard Wall Street is just dude.
Yeah. One of the reasons it was in Wyoming. Okay, this is the craziest thing. We went to a board meeting for a bachelorette event. Yeah. So so it was not exactly the most fun weekend. My sister is I guess if we're to use a Marvel Snap player term, she's very sweaty. So yeah,
I mean, all respect to that. That's badass. Legitimately, that's kind of hashtag girl boss kind of shit to do. But there's just it's been activated a lot, right? Especially in the context of the World Cup happening recently. There's this latent patriotism / nationalism inside me. It's just waiting for an outlet. It's I hear about that and I'm just they're taking our jobs,
Yeah.
There's part of me that's hold on now.
Yeah, it was something. They did have the Yin Yang Twins and Afro Man perform in Sheridan, so there was that. That was kind of fun.
That's
But
yeah, that sounds like something that would happen. Do you want to want to tell them about geriatric?
oh yeah, this is a good one. So many of you may know that Yo Woody, content creator who was very good at this game, friend of both of ours, who was playing for a while. He quit. I think I can say this because he's been playing a lot now. He's back. I've
I
been
mean,
helping
like,
him.
we'll loosely define back. Like, he's been
I think he's
playing.
back. I think he's like
We'll
top
we'll
100 now again or something.
we'll see.
We'll see. We hope it sticks. But I was talking to him. I've been helping him. He's behind on a lot of cards, so helping him make decks, bouncing ideas
He
off each
sent me
other.
he sent me a screenshot that was a deck with 3 cards in it that was entitled "Cards That Carry My Collection,"
Oh yeah,
and it
yeah. I
was
got that same screenshot.
Juggernaut, Shang-Chi, Shadow King.
Shadow King.
Like,
Yeah.
yep. I mean,
Anyway, so
other
I
than the
was
polar bear in Arlington, Texas there, Shang-Chi, but yes.
anyway, I was we were gonna play earlier today. He sent me a deck that actually looked sick. And I was like, oh, let's hop on Discord. Let's play that out. I'm like, I have an hour. I gotta go record with KM. And he's like, wait, what are you recording with KM? I'm like, oh, I took over co-host of the podcast he used to do with Jerry. And he's like, wait, who's Jerry? I was like, oh, the Magic the Gathering guy. He's like, I thought you were Jerry. I'm like, dude, you know my real name. He's like, geriatric. And I've never felt so burned in my entire life.
I kind of want to change your name on this podcast to like Jerry Space Atric.
Yeah,
Like,
Jerry,
I think that's a really
yeah,
because like people have gotten like, hey, you need to change the name of the podcast. It still says the KMBest podcast with Jerry Thompson, and they're right. I'm very lazy and bad at this, but if I changed it to the KMBest podcast with Geriatric,
yeah,
that rips. That
uh,
super rips. I'm super into it.
yeah. And I knew you specifically would enjoy that joke, so I
Yep.
immediately shot that over to you. That was a good one. He got me good.
Yep.
Yeah,
If this wasn't an OTA episode where we talked about actual stuff, that would be the episode name.
yeah.
The KMBest podcast with Jerry Atrick, right? Like
Maybe we
that.
should cut the bit, save it for next time. Pretend it happened then, just for the title.
No. It's happening at like an hour and 12 minutes in, right? So
Yeah,
we could just
they,
like
they
say
won't
it
hear
at the
it.
beginning.
Yeah,
They won't even hear it.
yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, we got this. We got this. I think that's it. I think we did it again. We did an hour of legit Marvel Snap content because we're the serious investigative podcast now.
I did want to hear about the tournament
Sure.
because I missed that because
Oh
of
yeah, go ahead.
my board meeting in Wyoming. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you had a board meeting with Afro Man.
yeah, oh my god, I have PTSD from this trip. But yeah, so
This is like the
whatever. I don't
episode
know.
of Succession where Roman Roy got held hostage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I it, it felt a little bit like an episode of Succession, except if Succession was filmed in Wyoming of all places.
Well, it does seem like the kind of thing that someone from Succession would do, right? Like, oh, well,
Well,
we
sure,
have
but
to get
like
out.
yeah, like Jackson Hole, like they'd go to Jackson Hole. I
Yeah.
guess Sheridan is like
Yeah.
the second Jackson Hole. I don't know. So
Yeah, like we
whatever.
have to get out. We have to go somewhere nobody is.
Yeah.
And we have to like do a combination of like nobody gets to see this and also we're real people, right?
Right.
And then, all the planes would break down and they'd be sitting in an airport lounge with no air conditioning with special guest star Afro Man and the Yin Yang Twins. Because that is exactly like if Kendall Roy planned this, like that is
They might shell out. They might shell out for someone a little bit high, a little bit more relevant than
Right.
Afro Man. Everything was like
Afro Man's
knockoff
relevant now.
brand. Well, yeah. I mean, because of the whole
the lawsuit thing. I
the
like
lawsuit thing.
the opening to Succession, by the way, with Kendall rapping along to the song in his headphones as it switches between the soundtrack and what he actually sounds like doing. That has given me permanent white guy PTSD.
Yeah, sure.
Like
That fits.
you can't be that. It is you can't do it. Shout out Succession. Best show of the last decade by
Ooh,
a margin, I would say.
speaking of shows on the plane, I did start my rewatch of the league, just inspired by your recent rewatch of the league.
Yeah, it's such a good show. It's
Yeah.
so funny, man. I what I love about it is that there's a bunch of guys doing over the top characters that later become 100% of their work. Like Paul Scheer is playing the character Paul Scheer plays in everything. Nick Kroll is playing the character Nick Kroll plays in everything. But this is before they'd sort of like trope codified themselves.
Right.
Jason Mantzoukas is playing the character Jason Mantzoukas plays in everything and also in real life, right? And you can see them sort of build the character over the course of the show. It's honestly great.
Absolutely. Kind of like It's Always Sunny. The same vibe.
Yep.
They all did that same thing there. Yeah, anyway, I guess I don't know. We probably don't have enough time to go that deep into the tournament.
We have
Sounds
time.
like Cerebro winning.
Yeah,
C5
so the finals
C4?
was C5 versus C4. Which
Yeah.
I guess in retrospect does seem a little predictable. Like it is the kind of thing where it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, I guess. I didn't see it coming necessarily, but it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I guess the real question is, here was my takeaway. I would not have banned Arashem, and I would not have banned Iska. I think Iska was me being a coward. I banned the good card in the deck instead of just banning multiple man. I should have just banned multiple man. I didn't want to.
I don't think you should have banned either. Let the multiple man deck play. I think that was fine.
Maybe. The other takeaway I had was, would I ban Cerebro next time? And I got to tell you, I'm leaning yes.
I think Cerebro's fine. I don't know.
I just think like from a gameplay perspective, watching Cerebro play against Batroc was just like, oh, this sucks. Because Cerebro, when it's unchecked, is functionally hella.
Like, yeah, I guess that's true.
And it's like, Cerebro that sucks. That's not fun.
Yeah, Cerebro is like shockingly good in these tournaments. It has been historically is overperformed, and I guess part of it is you get location screwed, which caps your win rate, but that doesn't necessarily matter in a tournament where you can just retreat and you're playing for 10 cubes anyway. So
it's
you know,
also,
maybe
I think, like Monty talks about this a lot, where he's like, people don't bully Snap Cerebro correctly in tournaments.
Yeah, and I actually really I loved his I think what was it? It was at the Super Tech God tournament. Yeah, Super Tech God tournament. I remember him talking about what he hated as a Cerebro player, like the snap pattern that he hated. And I had a super unfavorable matchup into a Cerebro deck in the Super Tech God tournament. And I did exactly what he's like, I hate when Cerebro players do this, which is snap turn one. If you have even a remotely playable hand, make them decide, hey, the locations aren't going to screw me, and yes, I already have Bro in my starting hand, right? And it's like, you know, sometimes it feels like you're now throwing caution to the wind and leaving stuff to chance, but that's how you beat a Cerebro deck, so you should just do it, right? Like, it is what it is. And I guess that's an argument for like maybe taking it out, because then Cerebro just becomes, did they draw it? Did they get good locations? But I don't know.
It definitely didn't seem to generate enjoyable gameplay. Like, if I'm concerned about watchability, I'm way more concerned with like Cerebro Hella stuff than I am with Arashem. Let me put it that way.
I mean, I think it just comes down to combo decks are just not fun to watch.
Yep.
Just is what it is. I mean, I don't think they're fun to play against either, right? Because it kind of just takes the gameplay out of it, right? It's, did they draw it? Do you have a counter? And that's kind of the gameplay, right? There's very little, it comes down to very little individual decisions during the game that matter. And I think that's what people want to watch when they want to watch a tournament. So
agree.
I don't know if banning specifically Cerebro is the answer, because there's just a bunch of different manifestations of combo decks. But yeah, I mean, if you want to pick away at some of the more offensive ones, I guess you totally could.
It's one of those things where it's just like, I would at least, if you're going to be Mr. Combo Deck, I guess I would just imagine that because these tournaments are ad hoc, right? Because there's like a random ban list, effectively, not literally random, but functionally. there are things people have no experience in. And so because of that, they're brand new metagames that no one has the ability to model. Which means that if I, gun to my head, I would imagine a combo deck is winning every single one of them. Because it's just going to be whatever combo deck people didn't prepare for.
Yeah, like Mr. Negative probably would have been a pretty good choice.
Gamer and Browday brought a deck that was making hard callouts on tech. They brought Luke Cage Scarlet Witch in their Batroc deck. And they whiffed both of them. But if they'd gotten it right, they would have won, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I think what happens is, like, you just can't ever get it right. It's impossible to just perfectly nail your prediction. Or if you do, you just got lucky,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, the right move for them would have been play Triton instead. That's what they should have done. Yep. They would have won.
Or Red Skull. Just a random Red Skull.
Yep. Like, it's just one of those things where...
But then you flip it, though, and the people because people did bring Red Skull, and they got no Cerebro
One
gamers.
person brought Red Skull in the entire tournament, and it was Zinade.
Wasn't Ika also playing Red Skull, or am I confused?
No.
Was that maybe it was Super Tech?
There was one Red Skull.
And he got 0 Cerebro gamers, so it is what it is.
Yep, but like,
sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. Like,
absolutely, but like, I would imagine that, like, if I had to choose a position to be on in any of these tournaments, it would be I brought a big ass combo deck.
Sure,
that would be the position I would choose.
I also think that's why we can't really over-index for tournaments too much. Because
I mean specifically these ban list ones.
Sure,
like the ones with the ban list, because like the other ones have a metagame informing them, right? Like, these are things where you go into it understanding what the best thing to do is. But when you look at like the previous ban list tournament, Snowball Showdown, right? What won Snowball? It was the comboiest version of Sholau.
Yeah.
What else would have won, right? Like,
yeah. I guess my point is it's probably more informative to look at the top 8 or top 16 than whatever specifically won.
Sure, I don't disagree that is also helpful. Just like, I would not be surprised if this pattern repeated, where it's like whatever the biggest combo deck remaining is, unless they do a really good job banning, is just kind of going to be the thing you're supposed to play as long as you think you're dodging enough interaction for it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a consequence of these formats not having a metagame informing them. Because you'll notice a very different thing happening when the no ban list tournaments are happening. Those are extremely informed by the existing metagame, and people are able to make reasonable predictions about what other people are going to be playing. But in the absence of being able to make those reasonable predictions, in the absence of the information we gain from playing the metagame, we're just playing whatever combo deck combos hardest.
I think that's
what's the point
neat.
of trying to play a tech deck if you don't know what the fuck you're teching for?
Well, I do think it's kind of neat how you got sort of this mini metagame that rises from the theme tournaments. Like, maybe not so much this one because it was so open-ended, but like for the Super Tech God one, right? There was people made some very real reads based on what was realistic to play in those. And the deck that won was the one that kind of slipped through the cracks, which was Aurora.
I mean, I think you guys are so down on Aurora, and you shouldn't be. Aurora's my pet deck.
I don't think I am. I'm not down on Aurora.
I did like 90 SP on Aurora yesterday after taking my melatonin. That was my happy place.
I think what you're saying, like when you say you guys are down on Aurora,
I mean,
you're talking about our friends.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm not down on Aurora.
Yeah. But yeah, like do it. Take a melatonin and just play Aurora till you pass out. It's the nuts. Because they both inform each other. You make two decisions. It's sick.
Ramatut Hulkling.
No, that's too high octane. I'll just play Cosmos and shit. I've fully tech slopified my Aurora list. I'm playing like Cosmo Mercury, Cosmic Ghost Rider. I'm slopping it up because Venus and Aurora just carry the points. And if I don't draw Venus and Aurora, or if I don't draw Aurora, I leave. I'm gone. Great. It's a great gameplay experience. I love playing decks that are like the old Spectrum deck. And I really hope that with J. Jonah Jameson, who people were like, you didn't talk about J. Jonah Jameson in your season review. Yeah, it's because he's a 1/3 I'm going to put in my Spectrum deck.
I also don't know if I remember when we talked about in the season pre, we actually didn't know if he was confirmed and real.
Yeah. But he is. And yeah. And that's it. I like decks that play like that though. Like I like playing the ongoing deck. I like playing the Aurora deck. I like Sam Wilson synergy mid-range decks. Those are my little, like, I'm gonna play one card a turn happy place, you know? That's what I like. Aurora, sometimes you have to play 2 cards a turn. The nightmare. But
Oh,
only
that's
ever on
awful.
like turns 4 and 5, and only occasionally.
I think I've decided I don't like playing decks where you have to draw the one card because I just refuse to retreat.
Right.
As when I was hanging out with Woody in the Discord the other day, he's like, "You can't even say the word."
No.
I think it
you
was
can't.
like we were playing a game and I was probably gonna lose, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this." He's probably got whatever combo, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. And he's mean like, "You mean like leave? Like you can't even say the word leave?"
The
So
L
yeah,
word on
uh,
Showtime.
yeah.
All right. That's gonna be it from us today. From KMBest. I've been KMBest, he's been Butt. And that has been a creepily smiling Gengar on his shirt.
Oh yes.